G'day, folks. It's Richard Joe speaking, and today I'm going to be talking about specifically looking at optimizing and redesigning the checkout process on a e-commerce website. And for those people who are particularly working in e-commerce, um, this is a common sort of problem area that we'll find. And depending where you look at the statistics, anywhere from like say 50 to 70%, roughly speaking, you could argue, of online carts are abandoned. And the analogy that I explain about this is it's like 7 out of 10 people are basically going to your shop and they've got their items ready to purchase, and then they just all of a sudden decide to leave, and that's obviously money left hanging on the table. So we're going to look at how we can, as CRO, optimization experts, experimentation aficionados, we're going to look at how we can help you if you own an e-commerce site or if you work in one, how you can reduce the friction that is causing those people to leave, and look at driving more of those people, so less than so we don't have the 3 out of 10 leave. We might be able to reduce it to 1 or 2 leaving, which is still money that's better than nothing, right? So you might be asking why do most what happens to checkouts, like what's creating this abandonment. And it could be a whole variety of reasons depending on your particular context, but I'll just go through some typical examples. I think one common one is uh, unexpected, like shipping costs, or taxes or whatever is happening in your jurisdiction. So if it's not clear to the user on the PDP page or just on the website in general that there are shipping costs involved in buying the product, like if there, let's put it this way, if it's free shipping on an order, all orders over $100, and you've got a clear global banner on the website, then that's going to be helpful. But if there's no shipping cost details at all on the PDP or whatever, the customer's going to be testing where that shipping cost is going to be. They're going to go through the add to cart, then they're going to go for the checkout, and once they enter in their details, say it's a Shopify website, they're going to chuck in their shipping, their physical address, go to the next step, and then once they see that shipping cost, if it's like too much, like if it's a surprise to them, then that can typically lead to them abandoning the cart. Other sort of factors could be forced account creation. If you're an Amazon or a big global brand that will typically force that, that's different. That's an exception, not the rule. But I think if you're just starting out and no one knows who you are, and you force account creation rather than let guest checkout be enabled, then you're adding serious friction to making a purchase. But you're essentially making it really hard for people to be able to buy from you, let alone trust who you are. The other thing can be like an often overlooked thing is buggy or sort of like just UX bugs, particularly for mobile. Sometimes these things can be overlooked, particularly if something's just made like in development wise, they are just building it, looking at their desktop, and mobile can be overlooked at times, particularly if you're rushing to get things out. Another common one is maybe limited payment options, especially in regards to what payment options you have. So some people, especially if it's an unknown brand, they may want to use PayPal, um, because they know that if they don't get the product, they can do a chargeback on your account. And look, in this day and age, people are coming up, facing tough times financially, and sometimes you've just got to emphasize, buy now, pay later options up front of the PDP, because it gives people reassurance that they can afford your item at and be able to break it down into easier to pay chunks. I think another one is maybe also, like, this is probably more so for new brands that lack trust. So maybe lack of trust signals, or like a clear return policy on the PDP. So people want to be able to know that if they don't have the if the item's not what they expect, or they can they return this item? What's your sort of return policy on that? Do you have any sort of maybe trust signals on your website that you need to, like, if you won any awards, consumer trust type sort of signals, can give reassurance to prospective buyers, because people want to be able to not have buyer's remorse after they send off their credit card details. And like these sort of things, like, they're kind of signals of friction. And the more friction points you've got, like, it's kind of like a stacked thing, right? Like, you've got you're missing shipping details, don't have trust signals, it's a slow or buggy checkout. Like, the more things you have, like, the more sort of friction that you got stacked against you getting that sale. And more friction it's basically more of a conversion killer. So what makes a good checkout? So it's like the inverse of the friction point. So don't force the checkout. Don't force the don't have account creation being forced. Just have a guest checkout. Maybe if you've got multiple, your checkout process involves multiple screens. Maybe having a progress bar on that could give more users an idea of where they are in their progression, and psychologically nudge them to want to complete the process. The other thing is payment options. So rather than just having just one option, have maybe Stripe account, have PayPal. Depending where you are, if you've got high ticket items, maybe buy now, pay later options like Zip or Afterpay could be good options too. And the other thing is, like I said at the start, have clear shipping options. So in terms of shipping cost, like, how much is the total cost for the customer, and what's the estimated time of arrival for delivery. Make those things clear. Try to make them clear on the PDP before they even go on the checkout. So they're not, having to go in there and abandon it and find out, like, on step 2 or 3. So let's go through some quick steps. And again, this is just really quick stuff, so you got to figure it out on your own. But step 1 is do a audit. Like, look at the quantitative data. Look at your GA funnel drop off. Where in the if possible, if you've got multiple URLs in your checkout, where in that checkout process are they dropping off? And identify that, and that will tell you where the friction points are. And then maybe add to that with qualitative data, like, from, if you've got Hotjar, Clarity, Mouseflow, whatever, see where users are finding friction on those drop-up points, and ascertain, like, that will give you a clearer idea why they're dropping off there. These are just general points. And the other thing is, once create a whole set of ideas and then prioritize these ideas using maybe a simple framework like ICE or Pi, and that will help you to sort of prioritize your list of ideas about how you can improve the drop off and the checkout process. And then step 3 is really just to kind of like test and iterate, just like anything else you would do with A/B testing. Like test, for instance, you could do, reducing, say, a 5-step checkout process to two steps. Maybe it increased conversions by 18%. Maybe you can iterate on that even further from your test data, and then just go through a process of iteration of your test, and that can feed into other tests maybe. So here's some common sort of tips, and look, it really depends on your specific context, but one thing is just like know your audience and your specific context, and not just copying blind what other big brands are doing. That sometimes that can be helpful if you're really stuck with ideas, but I think it's really good to like deep dive into your qual and quant data, and like know why your customers are dropping off, and develop a hypothesis and test ideas for that. And yeah, like I said, I think it's quite common to ignore the mobile experience, maybe because when we're working as CROs, we're like in front of a desktop, right? And maybe even say your developers who are building out tests, and it's just very easy to like just have a desktop only viewpoint. But if you're finding that 70% of your traffic is really coming from mobile, then maybe if you've been optimizing too much for desktop, just out of sheer habit, get into a mobile first sort of mindset. And like I said, just don't just do things on gut feeling. Have a list of test ideas, problem statement, hypotheses, and prioritize them. And test in order of importance. Well, not just that, but according to the ICE or Pi principle. Cool. So that's up for me. Giving you a quick 10-minute overview of things. Just to wrap it up, we want to reduce the friction. Reducing the friction will lead to an increase in conversion and decrease in abandonments. Look at prioritizing your whole list of tests in your backlog for this, based on the testing prioritization framework. And test, do not guess. Use actual data from your own qual and quant, and Bob's your uncle. So go from there. Look, if this has helped you out, please hit the subscribe button. I've got a free CRO econ book that you can download. It'll be on somewhere on the links down here. And if you've got any comments, leave them down below. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.